Hi, everybody. Welcome to a brand new segment of Inclusion Unlimited. I'm Leslie Mouton, the Creative Media Director for Morgans. Well, if you are watching this episode on YouTube right now, then you know there is all kinds of crazy content on here. For young children, much of that content lacks educational value and diverse representation. Well, Danielle Hennessy saw that gap and decided to create Smart Moves. Smart Moves is an animated movement series for elementary age students with the goal of spreading inclusion into the classroom. Danielle joined studio intern Emma Siebold in the studio via Zoom.
So, tell me a little bit about Smart Moves, what it is, and who it's intended for.
Yeah, absolutely. And first, I just want to thank you so much for having me. Morgan's is such an inspirational organization. You all are truly creating a more inclusive world and impact in the lives of so many. And so I'm truly honored to be partnering with such an incredible institution. Um, but Smart Moves is a free, inclusive educational program designed for learners currently at the pre-K to second grade level. I do have plans to expand that, but we're going to start there for now. And it combines movement and learning, so participants are actively engaged while building those important foundational skills and knowledge. And every video is intentionally built around four elements. I call them the four pillars of Smart Moves. The first one is education. So each video we are tailoring to an educational lesson from the Virginia Standards of Learning. And we're doing this so that educators can easily slot this into their classroom. And then education as a pillar was really important for me because I'm a parent of two young boys, and I know some of the junk that's out there in the YouTube space, especially for kids. And so I really wanted to make sure the content that I was putting out there was growing their minds. The second pillar is movement, and movement is incredibly important for children and really all humans. Research shows that movement leads to decreased negative behaviors and increases overall learning outcomes, particularly in engagement, attention, and memory. And so, movement was something I knew I really wanted to incorporate in Smart Moves. The next is inclusion. And truly, this is why I wanted to build Smart Moves because unfortunately, we are still incredibly lacking in this space. But even if you zoom out further, I think we have so much growth and work we need to do to make the world in general more inclusive. And so we bring inclusion into our videos through our amazing characters. And then we also have inclusive language that we use throughout and modified movement prompts. And so one of our main characters, his name is Luis, and he has restricted mobility, is in a wheelchair, and he has spina bifida. And then another one of our main characters, her name is Finley. She has autism spectrum disorder and uses an AAC device to communicate. So we wanted to make sure we incorporated that within our characters. And then also you'll hear throughout our videos the language like move in the best way for your body. Every way is the right way. So we're incorporating inclusion into every single video. And then the last pillar is diversity. Again, this is another really important thing to me. Representation, unfortunately, is still incredibly lacking in the digital media world. And so we're just making sure that we are representing diverse identities and experiences.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love your take on representation because I think that people can get very narrow-minded with that and what
Yes.
that means. And it really shows that Smart Moves is representation of everything, of not just what you look like, but of your abilities, of your movement, of the way you talk
Yeah.
and communicate. I think that's amazing. And you touched on this a little bit, but what did you see out there that made you decide to that Smart Moves was a necessary creation?
I have two little boys and they've got a lot of energy. And we had already done a few activities with them to get some of that energy out. And then they started begging me to do these movement videos that they do in school often. And so I hadn't heard of it before and clicked on it. And this is the kind of content creator where each video is getting millions, sometimes even tens of millions of views and likes. So it is really out there in this space. And while I was watching them do it, I had these things, these thoughts just circulating in my brain. And the first was, okay, so if our kids are doing this in school regularly, well, what about the kids in their schools that have limited or restricted mobility or other disabilities? What are they doing so that they get this movement aspect as well? Because it was not inclusive at all. So that was the first thought. The second was I really wished there was an educational component to it. The last thought I had was this was yet again, unfortunately, another white adult figurehead for an early childhood channel, and there just needs to be more diversity out there. So I thought, okay, for sure, there has to be something out there that kind of incorporates all of this. And so I just thought, with my background and my passion, why not me? Why couldn't I be the one that creates a resource like this to solve this gap in a meaningful and intentional way?
I love that. And I love the why not me because I think if a
Yeah.
lot more people had that mindset, I think of Gordon Hartman over here at Morgan's, kind of why not me? Why not my daughter? Why not create this? And
Yeah.
so I love that so much. What goes into creating each video? Because they are very high quality and very elaborate.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and this was the piece that I actually am finding that I love because I didn't realize how creative I was until just a few years ago, and even through this whole process and how much it fills my cup to be creative like this. And so I'll just kind of walk you through my process. I start, like I mentioned, I'm tailoring all of these to the Virginia Standards of Learning. So I've gone through, all of these are listed online, and I've gone through each educational level and then each subject and look at the learning outcomes and for each subject. And so, for instance, if one in kindergarten is that they want to skip count by the end of the year from 10 to 50, that's a video that I'm making. Um, and so that has been really fun. I'm making sure that I am very consistent with how I'm structuring the videos, being as consistent as possible because online learning, it's really important, and especially for this population that I'm trying to serve, consistency is really important. Routines are really important, and the viewers are able to kind of dive into the content rather than being confused or trying to figure out like what am I supposed to be doing. So I'm being really intentional with that. And then when I'm writing the scripts, I am going through and I'm asking myself two questions. And those two questions are, who isn't being included and how can I include them? And then once the script is complete, I record a voiceover. Move your body the best way for you. And it took a while for me to figure out how I could do this because I'm a grown woman with a deeper voice. I don't sound like a child, and I just couldn't get my voice there. But I was able to find a software program that helps distort my voice so it sounds more childlike. And it's been so fun because, like I mentioned, I have two little kids and I'm surrounded by kids always. So I'm trying to bring in those little elements of kids, which has been really fun.
Tap your hands like you're holding the xylophone sticks and play a song.
And then before, so the last step of the process is I go through the script I wrote again and I put in animator notes just so that the animator knows exactly what I'm wanting for the background scenes and certain elements of the video, and then send all that away for production. And then we go back and forth with edits.
What is the importance, do you think, of something like Smart Moves on platforms like YouTube for these kids to have something like that?
Yeah, it's so important, and there is such a gap in this market. And I hear time and time again. So I've done pitches and I've talked to people, and everyone loves my idea. But like the first thing I hear is, "Oh, it's such a saturated market. That's really hard to break into." And I completely understand that. And I also just want to highlight that Smart Moves is different from everything that's out there because of those four pillars that I mentioned. The people that are viewing and participating in Smart Moves videos, they are seeing themselves represented. They're not seeing a white adult. They are seeing themselves represented in various disabilities and ways to communicate. And so, and they're just also being included. And that's where I think it's so important for this generation, this next generation growing up on the internet, like you said, that they are seeing that everyone can and should be included, and it's really not that difficult. I'm really targeting schools that have really good special education programs, are they are like serve a diverse population, and then they're open to innovation, innovative learning approaches. And so that's who I'm really trying to target, because I know that Smart Moves is not perfect, and I need this data. I need this feedback to know how I can grow it so that it's just better for all. For this generation really needs to see that representation and that people can and should be included. It does feel like we are regressing, and that's not the direction that we need to go in. And so, having something like Smart Moves out there where kids at a very young age are seeing all of this, they're seeing themselves represented or they're seeing others represented, I think can really move the needle in the better direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was amazing, Danielle. That's all the questions I have for you.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. This was so fun, and I'm really truly honored to have been able to talk with you about this.
I absolutely love that. Smart moves. Check them out. Thank you so much, Emma. And thank you, as always, for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you next time.